Welcome to the Movie Watch Before You Die podcast. I'm your host, Dylan, along with my cousin and co-host.
Gab.
And we are finally getting to a movie that is one I would think is so obvious I would have wanted to do since the beginning. It's one that I said on Mean Girls that we were doing next because I felt like she picked an obvious one. It is the 1976 cinematic classic, Rocky.
Now, listener, we do have a controversy to address, so I would like to address it now, Dylan, if it please the court.
It may.
Okay. So there has been a controversy here on Movies to Watch Before You Die, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it. We want to kind of address the rumors head on so that nothing gets lost in translation and there's no he said, she said. I feel that this is very important. So, Dylan, I'm going to go ahead and step in and just take control of the issue immediately. Dylan does not know that I'm about to say this or have this conversation on the podcast with you, listener, but it has to happen. So maybe some of you have heard the rumors, maybe you have not. But I do think it is important to come clean and tell our side of the story. And so what I want to say is if you've heard about it, if it has come into your consciousness, it is true. I have never seen Rocky.
I had an inkling it was either that or you're going to bring up candy corn. I felt like because we were talking before about candy corn. I'm very anti, Gab's very pro, but
Love candy corn.
I do feel like this is one of those cinematic movies that the fact that you hadn't seen this, that you hadn't seen Jaws, that I was like, it's too obvious, but someday we got to get to it. And quite frankly, Gab, depending how this episode goes, you may have many more Rockies to see. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we will see, Dylan. We will see. I'm very excited to talk about this. It was definitely a unique experience watching it, A, for the first time as an adult, and B, in 2024. So I'm excited to dive right in. I guess we should do the things that we do. So I will tell you what I think it's about.
It feels weird to have you say that, but go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Do you want to say it?
Gab, tell me what it's about.
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Rocky is about an up and coming boxer who is given the once in a lifetime opportunity to fight a world renowned professional in a match which has the possibility of altering his life.
I feel like you just don't know how to talk about boxing at all to say he was the world heavyweight champion and it's a title fight, but that's fine. Let's see what
I don't know
IMDb
what any of that
says.
means. Okay.
A small-time Philadelphia boxer gets a supremely rare chance to fight the world heavyweight champion in a bout in which he strives to go the distance for his self-respect.
Let me ask you a question. Do you hate Philadelphia as much as I do?
Honestly, Gab, because of this movie, I really don't.
Okay. Let
Philadelphia's
me tell you.
favorite son, Rocky Balboa, is like one of my fucking heroes. So I've been to Philadelphia. I've stood in front of the Rocky statue. I've run up the Rocky steps. Like,
Okay.
very into it.
If the Mets lost to the Phillies, can I tell you what I was going to do for this episode?
Torpedo this movie just because of that?
No. I would never do that.
Oh, okay.
I was going to not watch it and show up to the podcast like, I don't know, I didn't watch it.
Gab, how is
And
that not
basically-
torpedoing this movie?
No, because you would have told me what it was about, and then I would have made a decision from there. But I truly intended on just not watching it out of spite and being like, I'll tell you what I think it's about.
God bless those Mets that they beat those Phillies.
Thank God. So yes, okay. Yeah, with proper boxing terms, I would agree that is what the movie is about. Do we taglines.
Oh yeah, you tried to skip past them. So we got a couple actually. You have a ringside seat for the bloodiest bicentennial in history.
I hate that. Okay.
It's kind of cool. It's like I picture that poster being Rocky and Apollo, Okay.
Sure.
Although I didn't realize how I'll talk more about Apollo later. Meet the Italian Stallion, a small-time guy with big-time guts who yearns to be a hero just once.
No.
It just goes on too long. Like if it's just
Yeah.
meet the Italian Stallion, a small-time guy with big-time guts, good.
Fine.
Who yearns to be a hero? Fine. Just once? Too much.
Yeah. Yeah, because also aren't there like a million sequels? It's not just once.
There are now 9 movies in this franchise.
Okay. Too much.
He's a has-been battler with one dream left and one last chance.
Okay.
Again, a little too long.
Yeah.
A Philadelphia fighter who never made the big time, he showed he could take on a challenge and won something bigger than a championship bout.
I just don't understand. Like, do these people, it sounds like the people writing these don't know what a tagline is.
I'm just picturing the posters being nothing but text.
It's like the intro to Star Wars.
All they could put on was size 72 font. Like they just were like, Times New Roman, here it is.
Honestly.
A true hero goes all the way.
I guess at least it's short.
It feels that one to me for some reason just feels a little assaulty. Like it feels like the thing somebody says on like prom night that is like, oh no, what's he doing?
Yeah. Okay, I guess.
His whole life has been a million to one shot. Now,
How many fucking taglines are there, Dylan? Enough.
Two more.
Oh my God.
His whole life has been a million to one shot. Now, Rocky Balboa is about to show the world that he's one in a million.
Okay.
And the last one is almost the exact same thing. His whole life was a million to one shot, which that one I think is perfect. It took the whole time to get there, but I like that one. You don't like it? Not at all?
I don't know. I'm exhausted of these.
It was too many taglines. Do you want I mean, it's an iconic movie. It has too many taglines because I'm sure they put out more taglines when they re-released it for the 30th anniversary or for the Blu-ray or for the 4K or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Do you want to give more context to what this is about, or would you like me to give some more context about that?
I would really prefer it be you.
Okay. So Rocky is plain and simple a bum. When we first see him in the beginning of the movie, he is fighting for like $20 in a fucking sandwich. You know what I mean? That's not exactly right, but he's fighting a guy named Spider Rico for nothing in a dive bar where people are like betting nothing on it. And he's doing.
By the way, I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt you. Spider Rico, incredible.
Great name,
what a
right?
name. And I do want to shout out Corey's friend Ryan, who will never hear this. But Ryan had a character long before I came into the picture, had a character that he liked to call Cheddar Rico, which I also think is great.
Okay.
So that's my 2 cents.
There was a Rocky video game, Gav, for PS2 where you could fight as all these different characters, and one of them was Spider Rico. One of them was Mick. Like you could use Mick as a fighter.
Jesus.
And you could fight as the Rocky statue.
Oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever
always
heard.
remember it. It was fantastic. The Rocky statue was the slowest thing in the world, but it hit like obviously it was hard to hit, but whatever. That's not important. Rocky's a bum. He is part-time boxing for peanuts, and he is also part-time a fixer for a loan shark where he goes and he threatens people, and you know, he's got nothing going on in his life. He's just been stripped of his locker at the gym because he's not going anywhere. Mick tells him, you know, you're a bum. You don't deserve the locker. I'm giving the locker to a guy who's an actual contender. And he has this contentious relationship with almost everybody. Like even his closest friend, who is Paulie, is constantly battling him because Paulie just wants to pick up the shreds of Rocky's success later on. And Paulie's maybe the only person who feels more like a bum in his own life than Rocky does. At the same time, he has Paulie's sister, Adrian, who is like the shyest person in the world, but Rocky clearly has this attraction to. We see him the night before he's going to see her practicing a joke to tell her, like all this just to set up these relationships that when all of a sudden Apollo Creed, the world heavyweight champion, has this fight he's supposed to be having for the bicentennial, and the guy gets injured and he needs to make a pivot, and he picks basically a name out of a book. And he likes the name the Italian Stallion, and Rocky Balboa has now gone from bum to shot at the title. And it's everyone in his life, you know, wants him to win, wants the success, wants to sort of attach onto him in that way. But all he wants to do is prove to himself that he's more than he believed he was. He doesn't want to be the bum that everyone thought he was. He knows he can't win. He knows in like 5 weeks, he's not going to beat Apollo Creed. And, you know, we'll save for opinion time where we're full spoilers whether or not he does win. Again, for this 48-year-old
I'm the only one in
movie?
the world who hasn't seen it,
Okay.
so everyone knows.
But he just wants to go the distance, and he wants to prove himself. And I feel like that would be enough that I can stop there and we can get into opinion time. What do you think?
I say it's time.
Good.
In this critic's opinion,
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
Gab, I feel like my feelings are mostly going to be very obvious, so I feel like I want to, have you throw out what's the first opinion that you had coming out of this? You got any hot takes? You got any strong feelings?
Dylan, I have one overwhelmingly strong feeling about this,
Oh
and
boy.
maybe it's a hot take. I don't think that it is. But there's something that I could not shake, and I don't think I'm alone in this. And I specifically did not go on Reddit to see what other people had to say. I truly waited for this episode. And
Okay.
that is, I had this overwhelming feeling that Rocky, Paulie, and Adrian are are all severely mentally challenged. And that made it a little difficult to watch because it felt like when you watch those shows where, like, it's like My 600-Pound Life, where you're like, this is so interesting and I can't look away, but I know I'm not supposed to see this because it felt like they were all not playing with a full deck.
I don't agree at all. I think they're all, sadly, painfully realistic people who totally exist in the world. And yes, they're all either socially awkward or like Paulie is
Been
clearly
hit in the head
battling.
a couple of times.
Paulie is, well, obviously Rocky has been, but Paulie is clearly battling demons of his own. Like, obviously, we
Alcoholism.
know he's a veteran. We know he probably has PTSD. We know he deals with alcoholism. We know he deals with, I was going to call him like a rageaholic, but I didn't phrase the sentence well enough. So we know he deals with rageaholic. Adrian obviously has grown up around such a demanding person that it's made her clearly painfully shy, where she has like a hard time supporting herself and she's just available to this other person. And Rocky at the same time, Rocky's very sweet, but he's not playing with a full deck. He's not like he knows he's not the smartest guy in the world, and he just wants to be more than everyone perceives him to be. And I think there's something beautiful in that. And I think the thing I always forget when I rewatch this movie, because you always remember the big fights. Like of all these movies, there's always a fight that you're going to say like that was fun to watch. And honestly, rewatching Rocky 1, it's definitely not the best fight. They go on to be much better, but it works enough at the time that you feel it. And what I didn't remember as much about this movie is I really enjoy the romance of this movie. I really
I'm
enjoy
sorry.
what?
What romance?
Oh my God. I think Rocky spends so much time pulling Adrian out of her shell. And it doesn't even really work until she's forced by Paulie to get out on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but
But
you
you
don't think that it's like, here's the thing. I never do this. So like keep it like this is I'm truly not one of these people. Like,
Mhm.
the people that are like, we shouldn't listen to Baby It's Cold Outside anymore because it's rapey. Like,
Yes.
I'm generally not one of those people. I think everything exists within the context of its time. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I had a hard time letting this exist within the context of its time because I was like, this girl doesn't want to go out with him. She doesn't want to go out with him. She doesn't want to talk to him, whether it's because she's shy or not. She did not start dating him of her own volition. It was a mandatory situation. And so, whether or not she was like Stockholm syndromed into enjoying his company, she did not want that. And I felt that the whole time.
I feel like that's such a painfully literal reading of it. And I do get what you mean in the context of its time to an extent. But I do feel like it's one of those things that she did need to be forced into the situation. Otherwise, she would never have gotten out of her own way. Because clearly, this
Sure.
is a man who is in no way disrespectful of her, who clearly cares for her, who clearly thinks the world of her. And she just could not open herself up to it. And I think there's like two scenes that are arguably the most important scenes in the movie. The two of them at the ice rink, where they're just talking about themselves and talking about, why do you want to fight? Because I can't sing or dance. And, my mother always told me I was ugly and that I had to work on my brain. And it's these two people who are clearly two sides of the same coin, where they've been told the same thing all their lives. And I think what's a really nice thing is as the movie goes on, you see them bring each other out more, where she builds up Rocky's confidence a little bit and he builds her up a little bit, where she has the guts to stand up to Paulie, further into the movie. And, they clearly do make each other better. And I think that's such a nice thing for this movie and for this series. Um, I get what you're saying though to an extent. Like the one scene that I could totally get it being read that way is the first time he kisses her, where he's got her in the apartment and she's still being very shy, and he sort of has to like not order her, but he sort of has to tell her like, "Well, do this now, do this now." And like, do I think that if she, obviously these are fictional characters. I think if she had like pushed Rocky away and not wanted to do it, I don't think Rocky would have forced himself upon her. But I
No.
think Rocky knew he had to take the initiative in that situation.
But this is the other thing that I found uncomfortable. And maybe you can give me a little bit more context, like in terms of, the facts and whatnot. But like, to what degree is that just how Sylvester Stallone talks? And to what degree is it him trying to sound like a boxer that's been hit in the head a bunch? And to what degree is Rocky's IQ low enough that we can start to question it was giving me like Lenny from Of Mice and Men vibes, where it's like he's gonna strangle this bitch on accident.
See, and I think that's ridiculous. I think that's too far. Like, I don't think he's not smart and he can sound dumb, but I do think that there is clearly some intelligence there to Rocky. He's not just like running around like, oops, I squeezed the rabbit too hard. Like, that's not
Yeah,
what
yeah.
Rocky's doing.
But
I also
but let
think
me
with
ask you
Sylvester,
this.
go ahead.
No, please finish your thought.
I was just going to quickly talk about Sylvester Stallone speaking. I feel like too much is made out of him being impossible to understand, because I don't think he is at all in this movie. The only time in Sylvester Stallone's career where I think I can't understand this man at all is in First Blood at the end, when he's crying and trying to give a monologue at the same time. Incomprehensible. But otherwise, I think he is usually very easy to understand.
But like something about forceps, like he was pulled out with forceps at
Yes,
birth.
he was slightly deprived of oxygen while he was being born, so half of his face is technically paralyzed.
I see. Okay, so that's why he sounds like that. Um, I felt like I didn't know going in. Like, here's the scenario that I imagined in my head, and you're gonna laugh, and obviously I'm joking, but like this is truly how I felt. Imagine going to see the movie Radio and not knowing what it was about. That's
I feel
how I
like
felt.
you're
Like,
overplaying this so hard, Gab.
no,
Oh my
I
God.
really felt like this
He's not
guy,
Simple
like,
Jack.
it felt like Simple Jack. It really did. And I was just like, oh my God. Because when the movie started, I looked at Corey and I said, is this the Cut Me Mick movie? And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was
It
like, is somebody
is?
gonna get their eyes cut? Because I didn't understand. By the way, I covered my eyes for that. But I just really the whole time, I think that we're spoiled in today's day and age with film, because I feel like every movie is trying really hard to go really, really deep. And I think Rocky goes deep ish, but on the surface it's three characters, in this instance, that are all troubled, and they end up building good relationships, and it's so simple. But because it's so simple, we don't get a lot of scenes of Adrian alone kind of figuring herself out. We don't get to really hear the Rocky's innermost thoughts. Like, it's very surface level. But I think the problem is, and that's fine, right? Like, we don't get a lot of like Luke Skywalker thinking about his relationship with his father. Like, that doesn't happen in movies from that time, and that's okay. But the problem is, because these three are fucking simpletons, the surface levelness of it made me feel like, oh God, they don't even have the ability to think that deeply, you know?
Yeah. There's two things I would say about it. One, I don't think it's as surface as you think, and you're forgetting that Mick is a fourth character in this movie who is just as important, I think. And it doesn't include as much time about most of them alone. Like Rocky, we see a good amount of just Rocky's life and what he's like, to learn about how he is, a bum, and why he would have reason to feel like a bum. Um, but the thing I would say also is, if you look at this in the context of when it came out, the 1970s, there are so many movies that are very down at the time. Like, I'm thinking of Chinatown specifically comes to mind, or like The Deer Hunter, or like movies where the endings were sad, and it was a time where a lot of movies just left you feeling bad. And I saw Sylvester Stallone talking about making this movie and talking about, I just wanted a movie where you would by the end feel better. You know what I mean? And I think what's important is the relationships are what matters in this movie, because it's all the relationships that are making each person better in this movie. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I do feel like Sylvester Stallone, he's not given enough credit for the things that he can do, because I think if this is like the first movie you ever wrote, it's pretty fucking incredible. You know what I mean? Because it does such a great job of taking all these very flawed characters, showing how they can all, not puzzle piece each other, but how they can all bring out what these characters need in each other and better each other. And by the end of the movie, spoiler, even if he loses, you end up feeling better about it. And to go back, I keep talking about like the romance of Rocky and Adrian because I find them very sweet together. I love that at the end of the movie, after he's gone the distance, the only thing he wants is to see Adrian. And the first thing he says to Adrian, it's not about the fight, it's not about anything. He notices that her hat fell off. You know what I mean? I just think there's something so sweet about the two of them.
See, and I thought your hat fell off was like, oh, so he is simple Jack. Like,
No, it's in that moment. The only thing that he has eyes for is her, and he did what he wanted to do. He went the distance, which is why another line quoted often in the Pollock household, specifically by me and my mom, at the very end of this movie, at the very end of the fight, is Rocky and Apollo, there ain't gonna be no rematch. I don't want one. I feel like that's the way I view life most of the time. I don't want one.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I'll say this. We can move on a little bit. When he's being interviewed in the meat locker, I was like, oh, this guy's a fucking moron.
And they're making him look like a moron in that scene. And like he
Yeah.
clearly he doesn't want to be interviewed. He's doing that for Paulie, and he knows like I'm gonna look bad from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole time it felt there's a Yiddish word for laughing at something you're not supposed to laugh at. And I don't know off the top of my head what it is. Do you?
No, I'm thinking, what's the shameful joy German word? Schadenfreude?
Oh, yeah, maybe it's something like that. But it was like I was like, "Oh God, this is how I feel watching this. Like I shouldn't be garnering entertainment from this." I will move on to something else though. Um, I thought it was really interesting that he went out for a run in a pair of high top Converse.
Gab, I think nothing of that.
Well,
I
you need
also
your
think I
ankles
did want
to
to ask
run.
you about this, Gab. Obviously, it's the 1970s. We're not thinking as forward thinking as we are now about nutrition and about workout. The raw eggs thing, it's a very iconic moment. Actually helpful at all? Or just drinking raw eggs and that's disgusting?
So I will give you two bits of insight into this. Number one, eggs are actually more of a fat source than a protein source. So if you're looking for protein specifically, you want to drink egg whites, not eggs. That's number one. Number two, it's a faster way to eat it because obviously cooking takes time. You have to dirty some dishes. Like I can understand why you would just say fuck it and drink it. Um, it does have the exact same consistency as phlegm. So best of luck with that.
Oh, you can tell
Um,
it's not an enjoyable thing, even in the movie, because he's
oh
actually
yeah.
doing that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is the risk to reward of salmonella, right? Salmonella, I don't know how to say it, and protein is extraordinarily imbalanced. Like the amount of protein you're getting is not enough to risk death. So I would say cook your eggs. But people do it. It's not unheard of. I think you're probably better off just drinking egg whites though, because the yolk is fat and fat is fine. We need fat. But before a run, I mean, I guess it's better to drink the liquid than to eat the food so that the fibrousness of the food isn't like jostling around in your stomach. Um, just eat a piece of toast.
I
You'll be
am
fine.
just now picturing, though, Paulie talking to Mick, being like, "Where's Rock?" And Mick being like, "He didn't make it. He's having diarrhea in the other room."
Honestly, though, because that's more likely what's going to happen. Yeah, disgusting. The training montages were not nearly what I expected.
Oh, Gab, if we ever get to the point where we're watching other Rocky movies, the montages get so much more montagier.
Oh, okay, good. Because
Like,
people
if
always
there's one thing
talk
this
about
movie
it.
perfects, it's the montage. This series, I should say, perfects, because this one, you can see it in its infancy, Gab. And I think I can watch it and recognize like what it becomes. But I get for you that you're like, oh, I thought there was more to it. But I still think it's
Yeah,
a great montage of him training and, the iconic steps and stuff like that. But I get what you're
yeah.
saying.
I did like that the first time we see him do the steps, he's clearly winded and out of shape. And the second time, he's got it. I was like, fuck yeah, training.
And he does it in such like the movie doesn't go that far in talking about it, but I feel like I was thinking about it more this time. The fact that he only has 5 weeks to train, there's a reason most fighters were like, I'm not going to take that because you normally spend like at least 6 months training for a fight like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Can we talk about Carl Weathers?
Only if you're going to say something great about him.
He's so handsome.
He is so handsome, charismatic. He is everything in this movie. Carl Weathers is fucking the man.
And also was all the way up until the end, The Mandalorian. Amazing.
Mando. Carl Weathers was always the man.
Just so fucking good.
You know,
Gone too
I was going to
soon.
save it for facts, but I do just want to mention there's a story that they always talk about where Carl Weathers was auditioning and he's reading with Sylvester Stallone, and Sylvester Stallone introduces the writer. He's reading with him and he gets through a scene and he goes, "It'll be even better when we got a real actor doing it with you." They had to tell him, like, no, he's the writer and he's going to be the star of the movie. And he was like, well, hopefully he'll get better.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Like, just the absolute status of being like, knowing you're the man that Carl Weathers had. I wish
Yeah.
to have a tenth of that.
I love that. Yeah, he was amazing. I thought I felt poorly for the actress that played Adrian because I was really like, they didn't give you anything to work with. Nothing.
I think she makes such meals out of the scenes she's given, though. Like, she does such a great job with, she doesn't even have that many lines sometimes because she's
No.
such a quiet character that she does so
Yeah.
much when she does just say, don't tease me or something like that, where she can just put such sadness in it that to me, I so feel for Adrian. And again, maybe it is coded by I've seen all of these movies and I know how Adrian changes over time and where she starts and things like that. But I I think there is so much to that character where it's a lot while not being able to say much. And I think there's something impressive about that. And I do love that she gets her scene where she gets to really go big and step out of her shell and say, I've been taking care of you your whole goddamn life. You know, what about me type of thing.
Yeah.
I think she does a lot with it. I think she does.
Did you think that Paulie was extremely depressing to me?
Paulie is
Like, it was
extremely
kind of all
depressing.
depressing.
Um, when you say it was all depressing, what do you mean? Like the
Like
movie?
everything leading up to the fight and like him obviously doing well, I found to be so fucking depressing.
I think it's sort of supposed to be because until we know that he can go the distance, it if the fight doesn't go well, if he gets knocked down in the first round, things do just go back to being depressing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, obviously it's meaningful for Mick that he got to manage this contender, and for Adrian, you know, and Rocky, they have each other now. And for Paulie, it's sort of harder. Like Paulie is just sort of getting to share some of that success. Like he like gets to put the name of a company on the robe and gets to make some money off of it. And Paulie is always just looking to be a little more than he is. And I think Paulie's just a very, for like what is a very simple movie, I think he's a very complex character of like clearly there's a backstory that the movie's not really discussing to this character. That's what I feel like. And again, maybe it's because I've seen it 100 times and I can read more into everything by now, but I get a lot from Burt Young as Paulie, who
Does
actually was,
Paulie
I think,
show
like
up?
an Army Marine or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Does Paulie show up in the future films?
Every character in this movie shows up in a future film. Gab Spider Rico's in another one of these movies at some
Shut
point.
the fuck
I swear
up.
to God, it's like a cameo, but he's there.
That's amazing. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I think one of my biggest issues with doing a movie like this is that I feel like my expectations for 32 years of hearing about this movie are so high
Mhm.
that like any film from what is it, 75, 1975?
76.
1976, oh obviously, can't it, like any film from 76 can't live up to the expectation that 32 years have grown in my head. So
I get that.
it to me it was a little bit like I was kind of set up for failure. But I I was so shocked at how dumb Rocky was that I couldn't get past it. And I think Paulie seemed equally as dumb. And then Adrian was so socially awkward that I was like, I shouldn't be watching this. Like this is
Oh my
like
God.
Love on the Spectrum. I've never seen it because I feel like I don't want to watch it, you know?
Adorable show, quite frankly. Adorable.
That feels patronizing.
Gab, I would say Rocky being not intelligent is a very important part of his character because he knows what he is and he knows what he isn't. And
But let me ask you a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
go ahead.
I don't know how much of it is like, so I'll give you an example. And you'll be able to speak to this better. Rocky does a lot of like his dialogue is really annoying where he repeats himself a bunch and he like says things that could clearly just be shown. And it
Like what?
felt
Like
almost
can you think of a specific moment that you mean?
like he's walking with Adrian, and obviously Adrian isn't saying much, and he's just repeating himself over and over and over. And I understand that he's trying to fill the silence, like whatever. But I think there's also an alternate universe in which you could watch that and think this is like this kid is an absolute numbnuts. Like he is I mean, it's like when you're with a little kid, right? And the little kid doesn't shut the fuck up about their toy, and you're just like, ah, yes, I know. Okay, enough. And I feel like he's doing that as an adult. So, what my question was, to what degree is that the character? To what degree was Sylvester Stallone just not a great script writer at the time? And he probably improved, obviously, if they made a bunch more movies. And to what degree is he just not a very good actor that it just doesn't feel like it's landing the way it's supposed to land? And again, obviously, Sylvester Stallone is one of the most famous people in the world. He gets better. He got better. But, as Carl Weathers said, but Jesus Christ, I was like, I don't know how much of this is intentional and how much of this is just like, ugh.
I'm sure there's a degree to which all of those things may be true, but I think there's an irony in you saying like the scripts got better because quite frankly, I think most people would agree that this is like the best one. And I would probably say that this is the best Rocky. I wouldn't say it's the most entertaining. That's what I think is a great thing about the series is it decides to be less about the prestige and more about like, well, let's have fucking fun. Um, I do think you already said all the like you know exactly what it was going for. You may have felt a different way about it and just felt the character was stupid and you didn't like it, but you know
It
exactly
felt
what the
poorly
writing was.
executed.
You may feel that way, but I do always think he's filling the silence and he's gotten somewhat used to talking to Adrian that he knows I'm gonna have to go in there and try and pull whatever I can out of her. That's why he's not a great joke teller, but he's practicing like, well, what joke am I gonna come up with for her tomorrow? And you know, what can I say to her? What can I tell her about me that maybe I'll get through to her? Like I just think before he had sort of given up on himself as a fighter, he had sort of given up on himself in what he was going to do for his work, but it feels like with Adrian was the first thing that he was not going to give up on. Like he liked
What?
Adrian the whole time.
Yeah, and that's great. I do think you should make it I do think it should be common knowledge that you shouldn't beg somebody to love you. You shouldn't have to work that hard to make somebody love you. That's something I
Yes,
PSA.
like in
Now,
reality, yes.
separate thought. Um, how about the scene where he just makes sure that little girl knows that she doesn't want to turn into a whore?
Honestly, I think what's most important about that scene, and I swear to God, Gab, that little girl comes back like 5 movies later.
Shut up.
I swear to God.
And she's
And it's
like,
actually pretty good.
all right.
There's a moment where he's talking to the girl, but he's also talking about himself. You know, when he's talking about they don't remember you, they remember the rep is the line that I'm thinking about. And that's why he knows his reputation is that he's a bum and he doesn't want her to end up like him. He's also a whore. No.
Yeah, and it feels like that's good. Like he obviously cares. He trying to be a good guy. He wants
cares.
to help.
And it also establishes, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but
No.
do you remember how that conversation ends?
Yeah, she says, "Fuck you, Rocky."
She says, "Screw you, creepo." And he says to himself, yeah, who are you to give advice, creepo? Like he knows he is the negative version of what he doesn't want her to end up to be. And so he immediately can say like, yeah, who am I to tell this girl not to do these things? I am everything that I'm disagreeing with, you know? And I think that's an important part of his character.
Yeah, it was just very hard to watch. It was like, oh God.
I also just think it's a part of Rocky being eternally sweet and good-willed. Like, as much as this is a character who what he does is fight, I think he is almost always kind to the people around him as much as he can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's unquestionable for sure. Yeah. I think the only other thing I wanted to talk about was what a piece of shit Mick is.
Mick, a little bit. Mick, I think one of the things that the movie like points out about Mick is Mick stopped giving a shit about Rocky until Rocky got this opportunity, and then Mick said, "Well, I can use this for the thing I always wanted." And like it is entirely selfish, but Rocky gets to have his moment where he tells him off entirely. You know what I mean? Like he tells him, this house stinks, I stink, like fuck off, fuck you. You know what I mean? You didn't give a shit about me. Why do you want to give a shit about me now? And I think there's a great thing about that. Um, because what I also like is once he lets him have it and Mick walks away with his tail tucked between his legs, Rocky knows, but I'm better off with him than without him, and goes back outside. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they each got to have said their piece and they get to move forward. And I
I
think
was laughing because I was like, men are so like that.
conflict and then move on type of thing, you mean?
Yeah, like fuck you too. All right, you want to go get a beer?
Yeah, they're cool now.
Yeah.
Although I do love Mick has one line where what is it? So Stallone goes, "I really like this girl, and Mick goes, "Let her train you." Like, yeah, he has a couple zingers. You ever think about retiring? No. Think about it. Like he's such a good dickhead, that character.
Yeah. I was shocked he didn't have an Irish accent.
I could see it. I think his name is like Mickey Goldmill, which is like the most Irish name without having O something in it possible.
Yeah. And also I think Mick is a slang term for an Irishman, no?
It can be, yes.
Yeah. So
I also feel like Burgess Meredith gives such a good performance as Mick that he makes that character into more than it could have been without him. Like I think he's a great actor. You've seen him in other things, right?
I don't know.
He this is not what I would call him a great actor for, but he was the Penguin in the 60s Batman show. Most famously, Gab, have you seen some of the Twilight Zone?
Only the intro to the Tower of Terror at Disney World.
Really? So you've never seen the episode where the man loves his books and his glasses fall off and break and he's saying, "There was time now. There was time enough at last." You don't know that episode?
No, I have no idea what you're talking
Oh my
about.
God, it's like an iconic moment in goddamn fiction, Gab. And it's Burgess Meredith was an actor in several episodes of The Twilight Zone, and that's one of his like most iconic performances. But I don't know. I guess I just wanted to sing Burgess Meredith praises for a second. Is that all the
Okay.
opinions we have here? Should we get to the facts? We
I'm
said Carl
dry on
Weathers is great.
opinions.
He deserved it.
Was this his? We'll talk about it in the facts.
I'll say one last line that I do like. It's during the fight, which I do think the fight does such a good job of being like its own drama within the drama of there's a story in each fight where it's like Apollo has the upper hand, Rocky's got the upper hand, there's the injury, oh now it's his time, like that type of thing. And there's two lines I really like. Apollo's trainer going, "He doesn't know it's a show. Finish this bum and let's go home." And there's the moment, I think it's like right before the final round, where Rocky says to Mick, "Stop this fight and I'll kill you." Like, it's just the way he says it too. He's like, "I will die in this goddamn ring. Don't stop this fight."
I can't get past the eyes getting cut. I didn't watch
You
it.
didn't watch it. They don't actually cut his like eyeball, right?
Yeah, I understand. He's swollen, right? And he can't see anything, so they got to release the blood.
Yeah. You're cutting like the eyelid where it's swollen.
But I would rather be dead. Like I can't imagine. Do they
It's a-
really do that in real life?
I don't know how often it would be done now, but I think it's a common boxing practice.
How did they do it in the movie?
So there's actually a good like behind the scenes thing that I'd watched where there's like a fake thing over his eye that like the person has a fake. Well, no, I think it's a real razor blade, and he's got like fake blood in his hand. So he's just like dropping blood
Oh.
over his face as he pretends to cut this thing.
Oh, okay. But still, I didn't want to watch that. That's
The makeup is
disgusting.
really good in the fight, I think, like where they both really look beat to shit by the end of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mick
Well, on that
also
note,
Mick also has makeup the entire time that you don't even think about. Like the actor doesn't actually have terrible cauliflower ears, and his nose is like doesn't actually look like that. Like they made him look.
didn't notice any of that.
Yeah, like a guy who'd been beat on for decades. And I think it's a good thing you don't notice that.
Yeah. No, had no idea.
All right.
Okay.
Facts?
I think we're officially in the facts. Play the music.
Face the facts, ducks.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Okay, so according to IMDb, it has an 8.1. On the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter, it has 92% with an average rating of 8.4, 69 fresh reviews, 6 rotten. The audience score is 69% with an average score of 3.2 out of 5. It had a budget of, according to IMDb, $960,000. The most I've ever seen said was like $1.1 million. That's like the range. It went on to gross $117 million, and it was the highest grossing movie of 1976.
That's
The
great.
critics' consensus: the story of a down on his luck boxer is thoroughly predictable, but Stallone's script and stunning performance in the title role brush aside complaints. Roger Ebert gave the movie 4 stars. A description of it would sound like a cliche from beginning to end, but Rocky isn't about a story, it's about a hero, and it's inhabited with supreme confidence by a star. Vincent Candy from the New York Times: the screenplay of Rocky is purest Hollywood make-believe of the 1930s, but there would be nothing wrong with that, had the film been executed with any verve. Which I don't really know what he means with
Verve.
any verb. It reminds me of The Nanny when they're talking about joie de vivre. Like, I'm like, okay.
How much did you fucking love The Nanny, by the way?
I mean, who doesn't love The Nanny?
I mean, do you remember like Gog would watch marathons of The Nanny like it was her job?
My mom and Zach still watch The Nanny frequently.
It's so good.
Yeah, they play it on TV. It's good.
It's so good. Okay.
Kathleen Carroll from the New York Daily News: like the movies of Frank Capra, Rocky is a glowing tribute to the human spirit, a chin-up reminder that the decent little guys of the world often accomplish the impossible, if only because they try so hard. Richard Schickel from Time Magazine: the story is achingly familiar, and though Stallone has a certain power, he is certainly not the subtlest actor to crawl out from under Marlon's overcoat.
Yeah, ain't that the truth.
Okay. Couple letterbox reviews. This one from Dirk H. I am not American. I really dislike boxing. I generally speaking loathe melodrama. I respect Stallone, but when he acts, he looks like a St. Bernard's dog trying to convey emotions. I am not a fan of sports films. I have every reason to hate this film, but I don't. I absolutely love it. Sometimes simplicity is key to telling the best stories, and this film understands that like no other. It is almost impossible to not be swept away and taken along for the ride. Ely went into this fully expecting it to be another Angry Man movie, but Rocky is just so soft. His turtles, his fishy, his doggo. Please protect this man who absolutely does not need protection by any means. Sarah: Rocky invented beating meat. His words, not mine. Francis May: Rocky's struggling to get up those steps after drinking 5 raw eggs. Like, my dude, you're not out of shape. You have salmonella.
That's what it's exactly right.
Oh my God. Let's see, where else are we now? The movie was directed
What's
by
grosser? Sorry, really quickly. What's grosser? Sylvester Stallone drinking 5 raw eggs or Nicolas Cage eating 1 live cockroach?
Oh, the cockroach. Cockroach is way
100%.
grosser than the raw eggs.
How many times did he have to do that again?
The cockroach?
Yeah.
I think twice.
Okay, good. Can we just agree that Vampire's Kiss is the best movie of all time?
I don't know if I can agree with that, but we could always agree it was the first movie to watch before you die.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Rocky's directed by John G. Avildsen, who also directed The Karate Kid 1 through 3 and Rocky 5.
Sylvester Stallone didn't direct it?
Not the first one. He wrote it. Screenplay by Sylvester Stallone, who also wrote Rocky 2 through Rocky Balboa, Cliffhanger, First Blood, The Expendables, and the amazing arm wrestling movie Over the Top. Have you ever seen Over the Top, Gab?
No.
Oh my God, it's all about he's a trucker who arm wrestles, and as soon as he turns his hat around, Gab, he's ready to fucking roll.
Yeah, it sounds right up my alley, Dill. Put
It's
it on
terrible.
the list.
It's so cheesy. It stars Sylvester Stallone, who you may know as Rocky Balboa, Rambo, or from The Expendables, Judge Dredd, Demolition Man, Talia Shire as Adrian, who you may know from The Godfather, Rocky 2 through 5, and Megalopolis. She's also the sister of Francis Ford Coppola, the mother of Jason Schwartzman, and the aunt of Nicolas Cage.
That's absolutely crazy. All right. I like it.
Burt Young as Paulie, who you may know from Chinatown, Back to School, and Amityville, The Possession. Burgess Meredith as Mickey, who you may know from the Twilight Zone episode Time Enough at Last, as the Penguin in the 60s Batman and from Grumpy Old Men. And Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed, who you may know from Predator, Happy Gilmore, and The Mandalorian. It won the Academy Award for Best Picture and Best Director. It was nominated for Best Actor for Stallone, Nominated for Best Actress for Talia Shire. Nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Burgess Meredith and Burt Young. Nominated for Best Sound, Best Film Editing, Best Original Song for Gonna Fly Now, and Best Writing for Stallone.
Wow.
Do you want to hear the funnest facts?
I really do. Fun fact me up.
I will try and keep it quick because I have too many of them.
Okay, make it snappy. I'm hungry.
Skipping that. Okay. After producers Irwin Winkler and Robert Chartoff became interested in the script, they offered Stallone an unprecedented $350,000 for the rights. Stallone had $106 in the bank and no car and was trying to sell his dog because he couldn't afford to feed him, but refused to sell unless they agreed to allow him to star in the movie. They agreed on the condition that Stallone continue to work as a writer without a fee and that he work as an actor for scale. After Winkler and Chartoff purchased the film, they took it to United Artists, who envisioned a budget of $2 million with an established star like Robert Redford, Burt Reynolds, Nick Nolte, or James Caan. When Winkler and Chartoff told United Artists that they could only get the screenplay if Stallone starred, they cut the budget in half to $1 million and had them sign agreements that they would personally be liable if the film went over budget. When the final cost was $1.1 million, Chartoff and Winkler mortgaged their houses for the last $100,000.
Wow. So my dad has told me that story before, but in my dad's version of the story, Sylvester Stallone is working at the zoo cleaning the lion cages.
I have never heard that before.
Like,
I've never heard that
it's
before.
So specific. Like, not just he worked at the zoo, not just he cleaned up the animal shit, it was the lion shit specifically.
I've never heard that before. It could be.
All right. I mean, you would know, right? You collect the facts.
I feel like I would. After the end of filming, Stallone kept the two turtles, Cuff and Link, and as of June 2019, still had them alive and well.
Wow.
Rocky's dog, Butkus, was Sylvester Stallone's real-life dog. Most people know Butkus, but they don't know he had to sell Butkus for $50 when he was broke while trying to sell the script for the movie, and then he bought him back.
Oh, good. Okay, that was about to, like, shatter my heart.
Stallone insisted that the scene where he admits his fears and doubts to Adrian the night before the fight was filmed. Insisted that the scene where he admits his fears to Adrian, even though production was running far behind and the producers wanted to skip it, Stallone had only one take for the scene and considered it to be the most important scene of the film. Which I think it really is, where he's painting that it's not about winning the fight, and like that's obviously very fucking important.
Yeah, yeah.
I already told you about Carl Weathers. The iconic shot of Rocky running up the steps of the Philadelphia Art Museum came about because of Garrett Brown. The Philadelphia native invented the Steadicam and was preparing to fly to Los Angeles and try to sell it. He'd shot test footage following people around corridors, but wanted to shoot something that even the most experienced filmmakers would look at and wonder how he did it. He had his girlfriend run up and down the museum steps and saw the footage and felt a similar type of shot would be perfect for this film. Avildsen hired Brown and the Steadicam, and several months after running up and down the steps with his girlfriend, he was running back up the steps with Sylvester Stallone. He also invented the Spider Cam, which we see at athletic events where the camera's on wires at the top of the stadium.
That's so cool. Those seem like pretty basic inventions that I'm surprised no one got to before him, but good for him.
When you think about like at the time, the Steadicam, like that was a huge thing, like them being able to film shots like that and not have the camera shaking around like you're in the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
Sylvester Stallone was inspired to write the screenplay after seeing Chuck Wepner fight Muhammad Ali on March 24th, 1975 in Richfield, Ohio, near Cleveland. At 36, Wepner was considered a moderate talent, but no one expected him to last more than 3 rounds against Muhammad Ali. The longer the fight went, the more surprised people became. Wepner managed to knock Ali down in the 9th round, although Ali always maintained that Wepner stood on his foot when he fell. So,
poor loser.
No matter how hard Muhammad Ali hit Wepner, Wepner kept moving and kept fighting. With 19 seconds left in the 15th and final round, Ali won with a technical knockout. Stallone famously wrote the first draft of Rocky in 3 days, but it went through 9 rewrites after that before being purchased, where he obviously shaped the movie more. Originally, it was a much darker script which depicted Mick as a bitter old racist, and the film ended with Rocky throwing the fight after realizing he didn't want to be part of the professional boxing world.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think you get any other Rockies after that one.
I was going to say that kind of kills the franchise.
At the end of the credits of the first 5 Rocky movies, there's a dedication to Jane Oliver, who was Sylvester Stallone's manager before he was famous. She died of cancer just before this film was released.
What?
You want me to repeat it?
Yeah, please.
At the end of the credits of the first 5 Rocky movies, there's a dedication to Jane Oliver, Stallone's manager before he became famous. She died of cancer just before this film was released.
Sorry. For some reason, I really thought you were talking about Adrian, because typically when you talk about this movie and you say she, there's really only one person you're referring to.
Talia Shire is still alive.
Yeah, and I was like, but I thought you said she's in the other movies. Okay.
And last one, the scene in which Rocky and Adrian kiss in Rocky's kitchen wasn't scripted the way it was shot. Talia Shire had the flu and was worried about getting Stallone sick. Her hesitation was an improvement over the scripted scene, and they decided to keep it. The scene has become Stallone's favorite scene in the entire Rocky saga.
Wow. That's cool, I guess.
Okay. We can get to the verdicts. I am ready to be hurt. Do you want to do this?
Yeah, I do. And I'm going to be honest with you. Well, play the sound.
Let's get to the mail real quick.
Okay, but quick.
Mail time!
When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
First, we got a comment from Scotty Cam, who said, talking about The Mask, of course. So this is time number 4 that Kyle has been on the podcast. He has now surpassed Corey as the most frequent guest on the show.
Oh, shit.
Therefore, we are instituting a Kyle embargo until Corey comes back.
Please.
I'll get to some emails we got really quick. First, we have an email from Legacy Allen, who was commenting on our Borat episode, which I should say mine and Zach's Borat episode, taking note of the best line in this episode. Quote, anyone out there with a foreskin, you cannot do this impression. That is all.
That truly did have me in tears. Like, that episode with you and Zach was truly, it was so nice to listen to because A, I didn't know what to expect because I wasn't there. And B, just the two of you together, it is chef's kiss. We should do it more often, except I want to be there.
We should. I 100% agree. And I think he's down to. We just have to find a time and convince him to.
Yeah, we just have to work around his fucking prima donna schedule.
He's just constantly unavailable.
Yeah.
We have one more email from Denny Clark. The subject just said movie, but their email had more than that to say. Like your podcast, and I've been binging. One of the best things I've noticed is that you stay away from politics and PC talk. So refreshing. Thank you. Which I don't feel like
what?
PC talk, political correctness. I don't feel like we do, but fair enough.
I feel like some of us do and some of us don't.
What do you say, Gab? That I'm woke?
Yeah, you
stay woke.
That's what I'm saying.
Denny then said, would like to make a few suggestions of movies I love and watch every year. My Man Godfrey.
No.
Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh my God, I was in a production of Arsenic and Old Lace.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever I feel like I know the name, but I would know nothing about what it's about.
I don't remember either.
Harvey, and It Happened on Fifth Avenue. Thank you, Denny.
It Happened on Fifth Avenue. I have a friend who...
What?
I was trying not to laugh. I said it happened on Fifth Avenue, and then I was going to say I had a friend who's...
I still don't know what you're saying, Gav.
I know,
Get it
because
together.
it's too funny. Oh, if I could have spit this out, it would have been gold. I was trying to say I had a friend who's... I'm so sorry.
No, this is great. Please.
Whose ovarian cyst ruptured on Fifth Avenue.
Oh my God, Gab.
I couldn't say it, but if I had said it happened on Fifth Avenue, I had a friend whose ovarian cyst ruptured on Fifth Avenue. It would have been so funny, but I couldn't spit
think
it
it would
out.
have been way less funny than you going through this whole fucking thing.
Oof. Shout out to Cheney, who was walking across the street on Fifth Avenue when her ovarian cyst ruptured.
Shout out to Fifth Avenue. I hope it's doing okay.
It's fine. It's not too far from where I am now.
Oh my God. All right.
Ooh. All right, this was worth it.
Yeah, I think on that brilliant note, should we get to our verdicts?
Yes, let me get my shit together.
Oh, okay. We have one last piece of mail actually before we get to those verdicts for Rocky. So I'm going to hit you with one last email from Caleb.
Dylan, if you hit me again, I will call the police.
Ugh. That's not a good. Oh no, domestic violence joke.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Into the email now. Thank you.
Here we go.
Greetings, fellow movie watchers, Dylan and Gab. I am a fairly new listener, been looking for a movie podcast, and have found the perfect one. I think he's talking about us.
That's so kind.
I'm watching the episodes of the movies I've seen, and for Halloween, I, in my humblest opinion, bring forth a suggestion.
Oh boy, it's too late now.
It is too late now, but maybe we'll still get to it at some point. I think you guys should do Beetlejuice as an episode. It's a Halloween
Oh.
classic, and since they released Beetlejuice, I think you should do the original. Thanks for the great podcast.
You know how much I love Michael Keaton.
You know, I haven't watched Beetlejuice in a while. I'd be down to do it at some point.
I actually don't know that I have seen it over the age of like 5.
Oh, so I watched it like in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
no.
You haven't seen it in that long?
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen the whole thing, and I definitely wasn't old enough to process what was happening.
You know what? We do have to add that. You know how we have our lists and we have like the ones viewers suggested? We have to make sure that's on there because we should definitely get to it at some point.
I would love to. I love Michael Keaton. I fucking love Michael Keaton.
All right.
Okay.
Now, should we get back to Rocky verdicts?
Yeah, but I just want to make sure you know he's short. Do you know that?
Michael Keaton?
Yeah.
God damn it. I'm Googling now.
Corey has met him in person and said he was like kind of weird and also very small. And
He's 5'9". It's not his fault Corey's a giant.
Corey's not a giant. Corey's 5'11".
Gab, I'm 5'7". Corey's a giant.
Well, to you, but here's the thing. His argument is that Batman should be much larger than 5'9".
Yeah, and so should Jack Reacher, but Tom Cruise was still him in a movie. Like, it's acting.
I agree with you. I say that Michael Keaton is Batman. He's the real Batman.
He's as close as we've got to a real Batman. Although I love Robert Pattinson Batman.
Are you okay?
I love Robert Pattinson.
What the fuck is the matter with you? Are you
Oh,
kidding
I
me?
thought the movie was great. And I thought he was great in it.
Dylan, that movie could not have ended. I mean, that
Gab,
movie should have ended.
We are not here to discuss the Batman.
Dylan,
and yes, I know it's a half hour too
sucked.
long, but that last half
my
hour fucking
God.
rocks. I love the shit out of that last half hour of that
Jesus
movie.
Christ. I thought that movie was going to end my life. I thought like, when are they going to tell me this has all been a joke?
I love the Batman.
Why were they riding motorcycles? I just hated it.
Because it's great. Because they're going their separate ways for now.
Okay. Well, listen, all I know is if there's a real Batman in this world, it's Michael Keaton. Tell me I'm wrong.
The fact that they have not made, and I'm sure you didn't watch Batman Beyond as a kid.
I've actually never seen any Batman movie. I've just chosen Michael Keaton as the Batman.
There was a cartoon.
That's not true. I saw The Dark Knight. I couldn't hear a fucking thing they were saying.
Oh, Beyond. There was a cartoon, Batman Beyond, where older Bruce Wayne in the future teaches a new person to be Batman. And the fact that they apparently talked about doing it, done a Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton as the older Batman training another Batman is so disappointing to me because you missed it. You missed your shot.
Well, wasn't Birdman kind of like paying homage to him being like, I don't want to be Batman anymore?
Obviously, it alludes in his career to that, but also he then was like, yeah, I'll take the money and I'm going to be in The Flash as Batman. And he filmed something for Aquaman and the Last Kingdom that never came out. So like he was willing he filmed Batgirl. Like he was very willing. So I feel like it's on WB, not on Michael Keaton, that we didn't get Batman Beyond, but I digress.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just love Michael Keaton, and I'm really glad that the podcast world knows about that. Also, I can't believe you didn't like Johnny Dangerously. He's so good in that movie. That movie is so good.
I didn't dislike it, but it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. I still feel it came on. I was at Zach and Allie's and it was on the TV, and I went, "Oh, Johnny Dangerously." Gab and I did that on the podcast. He went, "Is it worth watching?" And I went, "Nah."
Fuck you. It's so good. I'm going to make Corey watch that
if
with
he was
me.
by himself, I would have made him watch it. But with me, I was like, I don't need to see it again.
He would have loved it. There's so many dick jokes.
It's fine.
It's
was
so
fine.
good. It's so good.
Are you farking serious? It was fine.
You farg ice hole. It's so good.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, why are we still here?
Because we still haven't gone back to the verdicts for Rocky, but are we going to do that now?
Oh, I'm trying to do a Rocky impression. I can't do it.
That's a really bad Rocky impression. So let's get to the verdicts, eh?
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to be honest, like I still don't really have my footing on what side to go. Because like I said, I'm aware that this is like an iconic film that everybody loves. And I'm aware that it is abysmal that I hadn't seen it. And I'm also aware that if I had seen it sooner, I'd probably feel differently about it. And it would be way more like impactful and, you know, whatever. So this is why we don't do movies like this, right? Like this is why we try to stay with movies that are a little bit more like you can really give your opinion versus like, you know,
The
feeling
opinion's
like
already
obligated.
established.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be known as the person who says no because I'm like trying to be a contrarian because I'm
Yeah,
not.
like saying no
I
to things
just
like Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Thing.
No, I genuinely didn't enjoy my time watching those movies. Although, how many fucking times do I have to tell you that I'll watch the thing again? I want to revisit it. You're being a prick about it. So, right there, Dylan, we could rewatch it if you want to, because I actually think about that movie at least once a week. Okay.
Oh my God. Well, we have to at
So,
some point then rewatch again.
fine, because I want to watch it with Corey. Um, but anyway, that's not why we're here. I don't know. It didn't blow my hair back. I think my expectations were really high. And I imagine, I love Star Wars. If I watched A New Hope for the very first time today, would it be super impactful? No, I probably wouldn't like it. But because I've been watching it for 30 years and I love the characters and I love the story and I know what it leads to and blah, 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 and it's important to me, I love it. Again, if I watched it for the first time this weekend, I think I'd be like, this is what all the hype is about. So it's hard for me to say yes because I didn't love it. I also recognize that it is greater than me. Like, who the fuck am I to say no to Rocky? It's one of the most important films ever made. So I don't know. I mean, I really felt uncomfortable because it felt like he rode the short bus to school
Oh
and
my
he
God.
shouldn't be in a relationship with someone because he's not capable of that. I felt like she was coerced into being in a relationship with him. I felt like they both needed to get away from the alcoholic guy. And then they cut his eyelids off. I don't know. I just like, you know, is Apollo 13 handsome? Yes. Is the
Why
fight
Apollo 13? Okay, go on.
Yes. Is the fighting choreographed well? Kind of.
It
I
gets
don't know.
much better. I still think it's choreographed better than most boxing fights were at the time, but go on.
I'm going to tell you the thing that really gives me the most pause, and you're going to laugh. Okay.
Uh-huh.
My very first ultra marathon, and for anybody who doesn't know, an ultra marathon is anything longer than the traditional 26.2 mile marathon. So the first ultra marathon I ran was the Comset 50K, which was like 32 miles. It's like 31 something. And the night before, I wanted to get really hype and like watch something that was going to hype me up for this run. So I watched the newer like Rocky movie with Michael B. Jordan,
Creed.
Creed. And I was like, this sucks.
I would
Like,
never suggest, well, actually, I think Creed is really good, but I wouldn't suggest watching it without seeing a single Rocky movie beforehand.
I didn't know anything. I was just like, this is not making me hype. I thought I was going to be like ready to knock a fucking wall down. Phew,
Bless
sorry,
you.
you can cut
You
that
don't know.
out.
You don't know who Creed was.
No, but I was like, well, Michael B. Jordan, like, okay, whatever,
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so part of me is like, maybe I just don't like these movies. Like, maybe it just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I feel like I'm my hand is being forced to say yes because I'm glad I've seen it. I feel like I'm a little bit more like well versed in the cultural zeitgeist now. I think it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. I definitely was confused. I had to put the captions on because I was like, what the fuck are these people saying?
Oh my
And
God.
that's not a Sylvester
That's
Stallone
honestly a
issue.
sound design of a 1970s movie issue.
Yes. Yeah. That's
We talked about
just
that with
poor
Wait Until
sound
Dark,
mixing.
I think, also.
Yes. Some of those older movies, like they just don't mix. They weren't mixing at the time, right? Like
Well,
sound
they didn't
design
have the
was just
technology
not
that we do now, too, where it's,
right.
So clear. But go on.
You know what movie is not old that has terrible sound mixing? And I'll die on this hill.
Any Christopher Nolan movie?
Yes, The Dark Knight.
Yep.
I was like, it's all the same volume.
That's like
I
that's like
can't-
his signature. Is like, would you like to hear what they're saying? You're gonna keep wishing you could. Like,
It was truly like I'm stalling now, but it was truly like I can't understand a word these people are saying. And this movie is 3.5 hours. So now I'm lost and I'm like, all right, I sit. This is where I live now.
let me interrupt your verdict with my verdict because I'm going to
Okay.
let you think about it. I'm going to abstain you if you do choose to say no.
Okay.
Because I will say, I do think a major disservice is the fact that you're seeing this at 32 years old, because I think,
In 2024.
yes, I think it makes such a difference to, we've already talked about a bunch of underdog movies too. Like we did Rudy, and what did we do right after Rudy that you were like, this is a better underdog movie? Why can't I remember?
Was it Easy A? That wasn't an underdog movie.
No, we did Easy A, but that definitely was not right after. I think there's this feeling of if you've waited this long, you've already seen 100 things that inspired it. Cool Runnings. And, or I should say 100 things that were inspired by it. And I think every movie with an underdog that has come out since this movie has probably taken something from it. Certainly every boxing movie that's ever been made has been inspired by this or Raging Bull.
What came first?
This. And I think that it's a very iconic film. And while that's a great thing, if you see it when you're able to be inspired by the iconicism, is that a word?
Mm-hmm. It is now.
We'll go with it. The thing that is a problem is if you haven't seen it at a young age, you've seen so many other things that have taken that iconography and you're like, well, I've kind of seen this by now. Star Wars is such a perfect example where Star Wars has every adventure type film after Star Wars is inspired by Star Wars. So if you didn't see Star Wars until now, you'd be like, what's the hype? Like, I don't get it.
Yes.
So this is one of, if people ask me like my favorite movies ever, this is always included in like my 4 or 5 that I would say. And I think we've already done at least one of the other ones that I would say, Die Hard. I think that this movie does exactly what it wants to do. And I've already spilled my guts the previous however long it's been. But I think this movie knocks it out of the park in everything it wants to be doing. And I think this movie feels real and gritty.
Dylan, I think you brought up a really good point just now that
I
has
did?
helped me make my decision. Yeah.
What did I say?
So you mentioned Die Hard, right?
Okay.
And I think Die Hard is another movie that sort of every, movie post that has been inspired by, right? Like, what would you say? Like I don't want to say a heist movie, but like a
one man
stuck in
against a whole lot. Yeah. Trapped in any place.
Yes, exactly. Those movies were all inspired by Die Hard. And so there were a lot of tropes in that where it's like, I've seen this a million times, but I fucking loved it. I was actually thinking last night before I fell asleep, it's going to be time to watch Die Hard again soon, which is exciting because
you gotta let
it
me
is
know
a
when you
Christmas
do.
movie. Yeah, I will. It's a Christmas movie, so I'm going to watch it at Christmas time. But I think it didn't matter that all of those things I had seen a million times and there were all those iconic scenes and the yippee-ki-yay motherfucker, I knew it was coming, whatever. It didn't matter because I really loved it and I enjoyed it. I didn't feel that way about Rocky, where I didn't love it. I wasn't in, even though these things are obviously like, it's been done a million times. And I want to make something clear. I wanted to. Think about it. Like, I am an athlete. I want to see the training montage. That was my biggest issue with Rudy. I wanted to see this underdog athlete come out. And I just felt a little bit like there was so much chaos where it was, this guy ain't playing with a full deck. This relationship that feels like it is not going to last because it was predicated on coercion, and this other guy who's got an alcohol problem. Like, I don't know, it was like it didn't give me what I wanted, which was like, at the end of Star Wars, the Jedi win and you just want to fucking fight someone with a lightsaber. Like, you feel like you want to crawl through the vents and whatever. Like, even Princess Leia is shooting people. Like, it was such a different feeling than like, all right, I don't know.
I have felt the opposite of what you're describing since I was a kid. And I think maybe because as a kid, I couldn't understand the seriousness of a lot of what goes on around it. By the time I see that final fight and he goes the distance, I'm like, yeah, he did it. Like, he made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. And Gab, I'm waiting for you to just say no. I feel like I don't need you to say no. We know you're going to say no.
Oh, no, I've said no. That was me saying no.
Good.
Yeah. It's a no.
Here's what I want to ask you, though. Important.
Okay.
You seem open to the idea. Gab, without me making you do 3 more episodes where we do Rocky 2 through 4, do you think you would ever watch Rocky 2, 3, or 4?
It would have to be for a situation like this where I had no other choice.
That's upsetting to hear, Gab. And I think then that I know what my next pick will probably be.
Okay, well, it's not your turn. So
I know it's not.
And it's not Kyle's turn either. So
All right. Well, I presume you don't have your next episode picked yet. Should we say the thing?
I have an idea. No. I need to think about it first.
Should we say the things we say at the end?
I would like to say the things we say. Can I give it a shot?
Say the things.
Thank you so much for listening to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. If you would like to write in and send us some mail, your opinions, your thoughts, tell me I'm right, tell me I'm wrong, you can do that by emailing movies-to-watch-before-you-die@gmail.com. You can send a voice note to anchor.fm/movies-to-watch. And then, of course, you can find all of our podcasting friends at the Hall of Pods network in the link tree below. And you can also find some other cool links there, like my Instagram and my Venmo, and I'm sure something else.
Our link tree's below. The link for our merch is below, which
correct. I was getting
at least one person has bought.
Yeah, buy merch. Merch it up. Merch is short for merchandise, and fashion merchandising is something you can major in college. So
are you okay?
No, it's we're getting late, Dill. Listen, fuck off. Have a nice life. See you next time.
You're bleeding inside, champ. I'm gonna stop the fight. Hey, you understand? You ain't stopping nothing, man. You ain't stopping nothing. You start this fight, I'll kill you. Ain't gonna be no rematch. Ain't gonna be no rematch. Don't want one.